Hi, my name's Julie Blint, and I'm an EMCC accredited coach, and I'm here to talk to you today about confidence building and preparing for new roles, which could be in your existing company or in a new company. Now, it's kind of ironic that I'm talking about confidence building today because this is the first time I've ever done a live streaming event. And to be totally honest with you, I'm kind of petrified. So if I come across as confident, please know that inside I'm like thinking, oh my goodness, what am I doing? So if you're building up for doing something that you find stressful or that you're worried about, please know I know exactly how you feel right now. So let's get to it then. We're going to be looking at practical tools for new roles and high stakes moments. So you can use some of these tools as well for any other high pressure moment in the future. So firstly, we're going to look at competence versus the confidence gap. So most people think I need to be more confident before I can do this. Like this is exactly how I'm feeling now. I need to be confident before I can live stream to the internet where everything I say is going to be recorded forever. But confidence as a prerequisite is is not something that you either have or have not. What is closer to the truth is that you already have the competence, and it's your sense of readiness that hasn't caught up yet. So confidence is a set of practices that you can build deliberately. And most people stepping into new roles already have the skills. What they lack is not the ability, but it's that internal sense of permission. So you can remember, like, can you remember a time that you started something new and felt completely out of your depth, but then looking back at it, you were more ready than you thought? If you'd like, please write your answers in the chat. I would love to hear from you as we go through the presentation. In fact, I'll be asking you to participate if you want to participate. If not, that's perfectly fine. You can just like think about the answers in your head. Obviously, if you have any questions, please do pop them in the chat as well. For me, I feel completely out of my depth now doing this, but I am still doing it because I believe that I can do this, and it's just self-doubt that's getting in my way and trying to, say, what are you doing? This is difficult, but I'm here doing it anyway. So we're going to look at how identity lags behind role changes. When someone moves into a new position, their internal picture of themselves often hasn't caught up, and they're still operating from an older version of who they think that they are. So perhaps you're a team leader today, but inside you still feel like the junior hire from 3 years ago. And then how much of what you believe about your capability comes from your actual experience, and how much of that comes from messages that you absorbed a long time ago that may never have been true at all? Like I remember back to my early 20s when somebody told me that I was like, the sort of grassroots employee there to be hands on, and I wasn't, a leader. And I kept that message in my head for so long. And then when I became a leader, that message like really conflicted with my identity. And then I realized, no, I am a leader actually. And as I sort of matured, apparently, I started to realize, no, I am a leader and I'm good at being a leader. But I still had that message that somebody else had told me a long time ago. And as we have more experiences, we have to leave those old messages behind and like think about what is true now and what could be true in the future if we put ourselves to the test and experience new things. So there's borrowed confidence and then there's built confidence. And this distinction gives you a conceptual anchor for the whole session. So, what is borrowed confidence? It comes from external sources such as titles and job descriptions, or approval from authority figures, validation from colleagues, or past successes that other people have recognized. But this type of confidence is kind of fragile. It's hard to maintain and it often like goes away when the context changes. But real confidence or built confidence comes from the evidence that you collect. So it comes from like what I did, what it required of me, what it proves that I can do, or specific memories of handling difficulty or skills that you've tested under pressure. And this kind of confidence is more durable and it travels with you into any new role or situation. And everything I'm going to share with you today is going to look at that type of confidence, that built confidence. And if you're thinking, I'm not a very confident person, I'm a shy person, etc., please do know that you can build confidence. As I've already tried to say, like, or for those of you maybe who know me from when I was like 16 years old or in my early 20s, I or even like in my 30s, um, I never felt like such a confident person, and yet, I have managed to do so many things or surprise myself so many times, like exactly what I'm doing now. So you can build confidence and you can control that self-doubt as well. So the inner dialogue under pressure. In the first 90 days of a new role, people have like specific sentences or words running on repeat in their head. And they're kind of predictable patterns, but they can be interrupted. So maybe that voice is saying something like, I don't belong here. They will find out that I don't know enough. Everyone else seems to know what they're doing. I shouldn't have to ask for help. Or if I make a mistake, it proves I'm not ready. If any of those sentences have ever passed through your head, please do write them in the chat or in the comment sections if you're watching this on replay. But like, if you look at those sentences, like a more accurate version might be something like, I was hired because of what I can bring. I know enough to start, and then I'll learn the rest. Everyone is figuring it out. I just can't see it. And that's the thing. Oftentimes, we look at other people and they seem really confident. But what we don't know is internally they have that same self doubt, those same fears, and these same phrases, such as, they're going to find out I don't know enough, running through their heads. So, what we have in our heads isn't reporting on the news, it's not reality, but they're sort of like old programs that can be rewritten and changed. So we're going to come back to confidence building a little bit further and some techniques that you can use to remember the skills that you have. But for now, we're going to look at something I find quite important, and that is body language and specifically voice. And a lot of people can talk about body language and confident positions versus defensive positions, but what people often overlook is how important voice is in all of this. So we're going to look at your vocal pace, the volume, and also the physical space that you take up. The first important point about voice is to slow down. So when we feel uncertain, we tend to speed up and our pitch gets higher as well. Or we start a sentence and trail off at the end of it. So if you find yourself doing that, like, it's really important just to try and slow down. And it oftentimes it's quite a good idea to even go more slowly than you would normally speak, and to pause between sentences, because you will sound more authoritative and more secure. And that goes hand in hand with lowering the pitch and finishing cleanly. So don't finish a sentence with an upward inflection that will make it sound like a question, because when your voice goes up at the end, it turns a statement into a question, which sounds like you're asking permission, or it actually sounds like you're insecure and you're not sure of what you're saying. It can also be a sign of lying, by the way, as well. So when your voice goes down or it just remains neutral, then you're going to sound more like you know what you're talking about. So if you start a speech or like a workshop like we're doing now or something, and you notice that you're speeding up and your pitch is going higher, that's the first thing you can do to change the way that you're coming across and project confidence. So even if you are feeling insecure or feeling anxious and all those things, you can start to try and control those little things to try and help you feel more confident in the moment. And the next point is to take up physical space. So often sitting forward shows interest. You can try placing, if you're in person, you can try placing both your hands on the table and just making sure that they're not hidden underneath. Keep your shoulders down and open, and spread your materials around. So this is about taking up space and feeling that you have the permission to take up space. So if you kind of spread your things around, this helps expand your personal space and make you feel more confident as well. So it's like a little psychological technique to help you feel that you have this space that you can take up. So to try and stop you like doing any sort of defensive or closed body language. Then make sure that your body matches your message. So when you say something important, then like make sure that you communicate it with the weight and seriousness. That means like making sure that you're not looking away or talking down and things like that. Make a concerted effort to focus. If you have any questions about that, please do pop them in the chat or comment in the comment section as well. So we're going to look at a little bit of a body language and voice self-check. So you can run through these before an interview, a presentation, or an important meeting, and it will take less than 2 minutes. So feet is the first one. So even if you're on a video call like this one, try to make sure that your feet are planted on the floor, shoulder width apart, and they're not crossed or tucked. For example, like, even though you can't see my legs now, so I can actually do whatever I want with my legs. And I tend to always like cross my legs, that wrap my feet around my legs, because it's a self-soothing behavior. It makes me feel more comfortable. But it's not. It actually if you could see me, it would make me look more insecure, but it can make me feel like I need soothing or that I'm not confident. So basically, just by sitting in a confident position, it will trick my brain into feeling more confident. And this goes for posture as well. At the moment, I'm trying to read the slides, which are quite difficult. So sometimes I have to like lean forward to read the slides. But it is important to try to have that confident, relaxed posture and not slouch. As I said before, if you do lean forward, that can show interest. And then hands. So your hands, it says visible and still, but I'm a person that loves to gesticulate. I've always done it, but also because I lived in Spain and Italy where people gesticulate all the time. And I think that your hands are a very valuable asset in communicating a message. But if you're one of those like foot tappers or something like this, or someone who likes to fidget with a lot of gadgets, that's fine if people cannot see you. But if they can see you, that type of behavior is going to look like you're anxious and insecure. So maybe you're neurodivergent, maybe you have ADHD and you need your fidget gadgets with you. But please do know that um, if you're starting a new role, it's a good idea to try not to do that in the beginning because people can misinterpret that as anxiety, basically. Also, if you're on a video call, it's a really good idea sometimes to make your hands visible because it can help the other person have a feeling of trust in you. But if your hands are hidden, then um, yeah, it can just make it look like you're not feeling so confident. And then space. Try to take up as much space as possible without being exaggerated. Obviously, as I said before, spreading your materials out and try to take up space. Your voice pace, so deliberately make it slower than feels natural and pause between sentences if you're feeling nervous, and this will help you feel calmer. And then your pitch, especially for women, try to lower your pitch, try and speak from your chest because I won't go into it here, but lots of stereotypes, lots of different things, but a lower voice is generally associated with being more authoritative. So if you can lower your voice, then it's a really good idea. So if you sort of imagine if you normally like talk from here, just try to imagine like talking from the chest or talking from the diaphragm, and this will help you sound more authoritative or more confident as well. And then breathing. So lots of people love breathing exercises to calm down their nervous system. I know a lot of other people who are not big fans of breathing techniques, but they do actually really help calm your physiological body. So if you are starting to feel nervous and your heart is racing, etc., do just take at least 3 deep breaths, which helps get oxygen to the brain and will help you think more clearly. So I'm not saying you have to do some strange meditation, box breathing, or any of that, but at least just try and take 3 deep breaths to calm your system and then get oxygen into your brain, which will help you think more clearly. So now we're going to move on and look at mindset tools. And we're going to look at some mental techniques that you can use before and during high pressure situations. And each one addresses a different source of low confidence. The first one is mental rehearsal. So athletes and performers use this consistently. And before an interview, presentation, the first day of a new role, you can walk through the entire situation in vivid detail in your mind. So imagine the room, imagine the people. So you imagine yourself responding well. You imagine being asked a difficult question and handling it with composure. You imagine your voice steady and your body calm and the conversation going the way that you want it to. The more detail, the better. So if you know the room you're going to be in or the background you're going to have, then it's great because you have to like keep picturing yourself in that situation with as much detail as possible, because the brain does not fully distinguish between a vividly imagined experience and a real one. So, when you rehearse vividly with detail, you build familiarity and confidence. So, you are not telling yourself it will go well, but you're actually practicing it going well. And there's a big difference because familiarity really does help you perform better. So, you can even try it now if you've got something that you know coming up in the near future. Like, for example, I was thinking about doing this session earlier and I was trying to imagine myself doing it and imagine it going well. So if you do have one of those things now, just close your eyes for a second and try and picture yourself in that scene, imagining the details and imagining yourself doing it successfully, imagining your voice calm and steady and the conversation going the way that you want it to. Then, number two is reframing the stakes. So, most people walk into an interview or a new role thinking they are deciding whether I am good enough. But actually, a more useful frame is I am finding out whether this role is right for me. So this isn't a trick, but it changes the power balance in your own mind. And when you are evaluating rather than being evaluated, then your posture, your voice, and your communication will change. It will help you feel more confident. So you can stop performing and start evaluating, which makes you more impressive. And then number three is the worst realistic outcome. When you feel anxious about a high stakes situation, ask yourself a question: what is the worst thing that is realistically going to happen? So, not the catastrophic fantasy, not the version where everything goes wrong and your career is destroyed, but the real worst case, which could be something like, I don't get this particular role and I apply for the next one. Or I have had an awkward first week, but then I'll find my feet and I'll do better. So when you name the realistic worst case out loud, it almost always turns out to be something that you can survive. And once you know you can survive it, the anxiety drops and you have more energy available for performing well. There is the old saying, name it to tame it. And naming the emotion that you're feeling, for example, helps you to regulate that emotion. So you can try it now if you'd like. So think of a situation that you're worried about and try and think of the realistic worst case. So again, not the absolutely catastrophic one, but the realistic one. You don't have to share it if you don't want to, but you can share it in the chat if you would like. And, if not, just think about what would be the realistic worst case? And is it as bad as that catastrophic story that you're telling yourself. So, visibility and voice in a new role. So, this practical side of competence is speaking up, setting boundaries early, and establishing credibility without performing. So, one technique is to speak up early. So, the longer you stay silent in meetings, the harder it becomes to then speak up. So, in your first meeting, in your new role, you can try to say something within the first 10 minutes or within the first meeting, even if it's just a question. And then that will help establish you as a participant and not an observer. And it will help you establish your presence there as belonging there and being part of it rather than being that outsider coming in. Another really important one is to set boundaries in the first week because people will treat you the way you allow them from the start. And boundaries set early feel natural, but then boundaries set too late will feel confrontational. So it is really important, like, to start the way that you want to continue rather than just trying to impress everyone by working like 18 hours a day, working through your lunch break, answering emails 24 hours a day, etc. If you start like that, it's going to be really difficult to change that afterwards. But if you start actually with hard boundaries, then it can be easier to give leeway afterwards as well. So really do think about those things that you want as boundaries in the future. Make sure you're not compromising them in the beginning because it will get very hard to change later. And then you can establish credibility through action. So find one thing that you can do well and quickly and try and deliver it. Because credibility comes from demonstrated competence and not from telling people what you know. And also, and this is the really, really important one for me, stop waiting to feel ready. In my opinion, confidence follows the action. So you do it and then you will feel ready. And this is exactly what I am doing now because, like, at 5 to 6, did I feel ready to do this? Not really at all. So I was talking to Paul from Coaching Minds backstage, and I was literally telling him this, how petrified I am. Oh my goodness, I can't believe I'm doing this. Like the immortality of all my words that I say now is going to be recorded on the internet forever. And, I've been so worried about doing this for so long, but I cannot let that stop me. I recently appeared on the Italian radio, so speaking my second language on the radio. And I was like, when I accepted doing that, I was like, oh my goodness, I cannot do this. But once I said yes to doing it, that meant I had to do it. And therefore, like, that really pushed me into doing it. But I couldn't wait till I felt ready to do that because I would have been waiting forever. So sometimes you just got to jump in at the deep end and get that fear out the way. And you'll find that it's not as bad as you thought. Like right now, sitting here virtually half an hour after starting, I'm like, oh my God, this isn't a complete catastrophe. This is, hopefully, you can tell me, going okay. So this is the point. Like, don't wait till you feel ready. Push yourself, jump in, and sometimes, all that self-doubt and fear isn't as bad as you thought, especially if you have some of the techniques that I've mentioned before or that we're going to look at to help you regulate your feeling of confidence. So now we're going to move on to your confidence toolkit. So we're going to look at practical exercises that you can use and return to before any high stakes moment. This is a really important one for me. You can use it in all types of areas of your life, but here we're talking about career and preparing for a new role. So we have the confidence evidence log, which is a simple constructed template to build a personal database of proof. So we're not talking about encouragement or affirmations, but we're talking about real, actual evidence that counteracts that feeling of I'm not ready. And this can be more effective than affirmations, because sometimes when we make affirmations like, I have confidence, this will be fine, we don't really believe it internally. So it can be harder to turn it into reality. But what we're looking at here is a real evidence log from your life of real successes and real achievements that you have had in the past that you can record. And then every time self doubt creeps in, or you need a confidence boost, that you can read and automatically remember. Because in the moment, it's very hard to remember our successes, it's very hard to remember our achievements, and the negativity creeps in. But if we've got that written record, it's going to be a lot easier to give ourselves that confidence boost in the moment that we need it. So we have 3 columns: what I did, what it required of me, and what it proves I can do. So, for example, I led the project review when my manager was away for what I did. And then what it required of me: it required me to present to senior leadership, handle questions on the spot, and make a decision about resourcing without checking with anyone. And then, and most importantly, what it proves I can do. It proves I can lead a high pressure meeting and make decisions under uncertainty. So here we've got evidence, not encouragement, motivation, or affirmations, but they're real things that you have done. And then you can review it anytime you need. Then we have the first 30 days and self talk reframe. So if you're about to start a new role, you can answer these 3 questions before your first day. So the first one is, what do I want people to experience when they work with me? So basically, that means, what impression do you want to give people? Is it that you want them to think that you're a calm person? Is it that you want them to think that you are decisive or collaborative or direct? So if you know what impression that you really want to give, and you have that in your head, it can really help you to give that impression in the moment, rather than coming across in a way that you don't want. So the next one is, what boundary do I need to set early? So we mentioned it before, but it could be like how much overtime you're prepared to do, whether that you will work through your lunch break, take 30 minutes or an hour for your lunch break, answering emails at certain times at night, over the weekend, etc. So think about it before you start. Have clear in your head, what boundaries do you need to make sure are in place? And then the third one, what one thing am I avoiding that I already know how to do? So you identify something that you can do, but maybe in your head at the moment feels too visible, risky, or forward. And then you have to, the game is to do it in your first week. Get it out the way, because it is something that you know how to do, but maybe you're feeling insecure or you have self-doubt about. And the more you leave it there thinking, oh my goodness, I'm going to do this, it'll build up and it'll become more difficult to do it. So the point is to get it out the way. And then, like, it should become easier to do it the next time, and hopefully you prove that you can do it. And then we have the reframe worksheet for self-talk. So here we've got 2 columns: the automatic thought and the more accurate replacement based on evidence. So again, it's not positive affirmations, but evidence-based correction. So the automatic thought might be, they will find out that I don't know enough. But the evidence-based correction can be, I was selected because of specific skills that I demonstrated and that you know how to do. So you see the difference there with the affirmations, because they are looking at your automatic negative thought, and then you're looking for real evidence from your past to counteract it. Then we have role identity reflection. So this is a projection exercise that helps you access a version of yourself that you haven't met yet. And here you describe yourself as if you had already been in the role for like 2 years and it had gone well. So you just imagine yourself 2 years into your new role. What do you notice about how you describe yourself differently? So, one or two sentences in the chat, if you would like, or in the comment section, describe yourself as if you have been in your new role for 2 years and it's gone well. What do you say about yourself? So, notice what changes. How do you talk about your skills differently? What are you no longer uncertain about? Like, what can you now do with ease that currently feels difficult? And how do you introduce yourself? So, again, pop it in the chat if you like, or the comment section, or just note it down yourself. The confidence in between. So, your personal evidence bank. You can think about this now. If not, like, I can provide you with a worksheet afterwards, or watch this video again, pause it, and give yourself time to think about these questions and write down the answers. So, number one, think about a time that you solved a problem that nobody else could. Think about a skill that you have that you tend to undervalue. Think about something difficult that you did that you were not sure that you could do. Think about a time that you spoke up and it changed the outcome for the better. Think about a time that you adapted quickly. Think about a time that you received feedback that surprised you positively, and a time that you helped somebody else succeed. Something that you know more than most people in your field, and a situation where you kept a clear head under pressure, and a situation that you made that you never took proper credit for. So, as I said, like, we've just gone through this quickly, but rewatch it, note down these questions, and really have a think about them. Or I can provide you with a worksheet afterwards. Then we have the 3 stories method. So this is something really you can use for an interview, but it works in general as well. So identify 3 specific examples from your experience, and then practice saying them out loud. And so not just thinking them through, but actually saying them out loud, because the difference is really a lot. Like, you believe it more, you feel more familiar with it, or your brain believes it more if you say it out loud, especially if you're an extroverted thinker. It's really important to say them out loud. So here we've got 3 questions, and the idea there is you think about 3 different points answering these 3 questions. So the first one is competence. So think of an example that shows your skill in your area, what you did, what it required, and what resulted. And then problem solving, a time that you worked through something difficult under pressure, how you approached it, and what you learned. And then collaboration, a time you worked effectively with others to achieve a result. What your specific contribution was. So again, like for each of these stories, like really think what was happening and look at the specifics about it. And like keep each to about 60 seconds when spoken, but really do practice saying them. And that's not to be like scripted or like say it off by heart. It is literally just about convincing yourself, getting it through into your head and feeling confident and comfortable with what you're saying. So then we have the first impression audit. You can ask a trusted person how you come across in the first 30 seconds. And if you don't want to do that, you can always record yourself on video doing it and then watch yourself back to sort of help you have that outside perspective. And then 3 things for handling difficult questions in an interview, to have like a clear structure when you're caught off guard. So the first one is acknowledge. So answer directly, don't dodge. So a lot of times when we don't feel confident, we tend to like fill the space with random words to try and be vague and say something. But unfortunately, that doesn't really work very well. So really do try to answer as directly as possible and not just to dodge it. Even if you need to have a sentence like, oh, I'm going to have to think about that for a moment to buy yourself more time. And then try to explain what you did and what you learned from it. And then try and connect that to what you can bring to the table now. So we're running short of time. But if you're anything like me, you've probably suffered from the feeling of imposter syndrome a lot. And there's actually 5 types of the imposter syndrome: the perfectionist, the superhero, the natural genius, the soloist, and the expert. We're not going to go through this, but again, you can rewatch the video and read the slide I have here to see which one you think that you might be. But I know, like, when I first, second, third time became a manager, you know, I really had that sense of the imposter syndrome where I felt like too young or too experienced to be in that role. And that wasn't true, because I proved myself to be a good leader. And that's the point of having that evidence to counteract these types of feelings of the imposter syndrome. And as well, you can rewatch the video to have a look at some suggestions about what to do about it for each type of imposter syndrome. But the central idea of everything that we have covered today is this: confidence is not a feeling you wait for, but it's a set of practices that you build deliberately and with effort and with, you know, a bit of guts to do it. And if you want to connect or if you have questions after the session, my details are on the screen. And I really do hope that you've taken away something useful from today's session. And I wish you the best of luck with whatever comes next. So I'm Julie Blint, EMCC accredited coach, thanks to Coaching Minds. And if you would like to stay in touch, my website is www.persephonecoaching.com, or you can find me on all social media such as Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, at Persephone Coaching, and my email is persephonecoaching@gmail.com. And please do write any comments that you have after the live showing. It will still be going out on different channels. So please do participate after the live session is over as well. Me and Coaching Minds in general would love to hear from you, love to hear your thoughts, and I would be happy to answer any questions. Thank you ever so much for listening, and I hope to see you all again very soon.